scream tore through the night like a blade. Amara bolted upright on her thin mattress, her heart slamming against her ribs. The lantern beside her flickered wildly, casting long shadows that twisted and crawled across the mud walls. She hadn't dreamed it. Someone or something was in the room with her. "Hello?" Her voice came out thin, shaking, despite her effort to sound brave. No answer. Then the smell hit her. Burnt herbs, old blood, damp earth. Amara swung her legs off the bed and reached for her phone. Zero network. The screen dimmed, then went black. At that exact moment, the lantern flame stretched unnaturally tall, bending sideways as though a breath had blown across it. She wasn't alone. Something moved in the corner. A heavy dragging sound followed, like raffia brushing against stone. "Who's there?" she whispered, standing now, every nerve screaming at her to run. The thing stepped forward, tall, towering, wrapped in layers of dark raffia and carved wood, its face hidden behind a mask with hollow eyes and a mouth frozen in a permanent snarl. Cowries clinked softly as it moved. Its feet did not touch the ground. Amara tried to scream again. Nothing came out. Her body locked in place as the masquerade lifted one long arm and pointed directly at her. The lantern died. Darkness swallowed the room. By morning, Amara would be gone. Long before that night, long before fear took root, Zimbali village had been a place of laughter. People used to say the land itself smiled. The river sang softly as it curved around the village. Children chased goats without fear, and doors were left open even in the deepest night. At the center of it all lived Ekweme, the healer. Ekweme did not look powerful. He was small, bent slightly at the shoulders, his hair white like ash. But when he spoke, people listened. When he mixed herbs, sickness fled. When women struggled in childbirth, he stayed through the night, whispering prayers and pressing life back into trembling bodies. "Health is not for sale," he always said. "It is a gift, and gifts must be shared." King Obate himself often sat beside him under the harmony tree, listening as Ekweme spoke about balance, about respect for spirits, for land, for people. For over 40 seasons, peace held Zimbali together. Then Ekweme died. He died the way elders prayed to die, quietly, surrounded by grateful faces, his breath leaving him like a satisfied sigh. The village mourned for 12 days. Drums beat slowly. Women wailed. Men shaved their heads. Even the river seemed to move more slowly. When the mourning ended, the villagers waited for Ekweme's son. Ifeanyi returned on the 13th day. The sound of his engine shattered the silence. A black jeep rolled into Zimbali, its windows tinted dark. Dust rose behind it as children froze mid-play, eyes wide. The vehicle stopped in front of Ekweme's old compound. The door opened. Ifeanyi stepped out, dressed in sharp clothes that glinted under the sun. Gold rings hugged his fingers. Dark glasses hid his eyes. He looked around slowly, lips curling into a faint smile that never reached his face. "This is home?" he muttered. An elder approached him carefully. "Welcome back, son of Ekweme. Your father—" "I know my father is dead," Ifeanyi cut in, his voice cold. "You don't need to remind me." The elder flinched. From that moment, something shifted. Ifeanyi did not sit under the harmony tree. He did not greet the river. He locked himself inside his father's compound and began changing it. Walls grew higher. Strange symbols appeared overnight. Drums sounded at odd hours. When villagers came for healing, he laughed. "You think knowledge is free?" he scoffed. "Bring payment. Real payment." Soon people stopped coming. Outsiders did not. Men from the city arrived in expensive cars, whispering desires of power, influence, wealth. They left with small bundles wrapped in red cloth and eyes shining with hunger. Not long after, King Obatei fell sick. He was strong one day, dead the next. His eldest son died soon after in a hunting accident. The second son, Oba Makena, took the throne. By the time whispers spread that Ifeanyi stood behind it all, fear had already sewn mouths shut. Then the girls started disappearing. They came as visitors, young women posted to serve the community, full of laughter and hope. One stayed a week, another stayed 3 days. Some vanished within hours. No bodies, no screams, just empty rooms and abandoned bags. Zimbali became a village that watched its shadows. That was when Amara arrived. She jumped down from the bus with her phone already recording, spinning in excitement. Guys, look at this place. This is Zimbali village, untouched, raw, authentic. People stared at her like she was already dead. A woman tugged her child away from Amara's path. An old man crossed himself with shaking hands. Amara laughed it off. "They're just shy," she said to her camera. 2 male service members caught up with her later. "You shouldn't stay here," one said quietly. She frowned. "Why? Girls disappear here." Amara rolled her eyes. "Every village has stories. Relax." That night, the scream split the darkness. By dawn, Amara's room was empty. Her phone lay on the bed, still recording, the final frame frozen on a shadow stretching toward her. 3 months later, another bus arrived. Her name was Nneka. She stepped down slowly, eyes alert, Bible tucked firmly under her arm. She felt it immediately, the weight in the air, the way silence pressed against her skin. A woman whispered, "Another one," and turned away. Nneka watched her go. "I'm not afraid," she murmured to herself. But somewhere beneath the earth, something stirred, and Zimbali was watching her closely. Nneka felt the eyes before she saw the faces. As she walked toward the service lodge, conversations died around her. Doors closed softly. A woman pounding cassava paused mid-strike and stared. Somewhere, a baby began to cry, sharp and sudden, as if it sensed danger before words could explain it. Nneka adjusted the strap of her bag and kept walking. "Good afternoon," she greeted softly. No one answered. The lodge was a low building at the edge of the village, its paint peeling, its windows dusty. Inside, the air was stale, untouched. Her footsteps echoed as she dropped her bag on the narrow bed. "This is where you placed me," she whispered, pressing her palm against the wall. "Then you will stay with me." That night, the wind refused to sleep. It howled through the trees, rattling the zinc roof, whispering words Nneka could almost understand. She knelt beside her bed, lit a small candle, and opened her Bible. "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." A knock interrupted her. 3 slow taps. Her heart jumped. She stood carefully and opened the door, just enough to peer outside. 2 young men stood there, faces tense. "We heard someone new arrived," one said. "We're corpers too." Nneka exhaled. "Please, come in." They didn't. "You shouldn't stay here," the second said quickly. "Not long." "Why?" Nneka asked, though she already knew. The first man swallowed. "Girls disappear in this village." Silence stretched between them. "I've heard," she said finally, "but I believe God doesn't make mistakes." The men exchanged looks. "Belief won't stop what happens here," the second muttered. "If you hear drums at night, don't open your door. If you see anything strange, don't scream. Just pray." They left as abruptly as they came. Nneka locked the door and leaned against it, breathing slowly. "God," she whispered, "I'm scared." The candle flickered violently. That was the first night she dreamed of the masquerade. It stood at the foot of her bed, taller than the ceiling, its mask dripping darkness. It raised its arm and pointed at her chest. "You do not belong here," it said in a voice like cracking wood. In the dream, her legs trembled, but she did not run. I belong wherever God sends me, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. You have no power over me. The masquerade screamed. Nneka woke up drenched in sweat, her candle blown out, the smell of burnt herbs thick in the room. Morning brought no comfort. At the school where she was posted, children avoided her. The teachers spoke in half sentences. Only one woman lingered after class. Child, the woman said quietly, my name is Mama Sola. Please listen to me. Nneka nodded. Keep your head down, pray, and never wander after sunset. Why doesn't anyone fight back? Nneka asked. Mama Sola's eyes filled with tears. Because those who tried died. That evening, Nneka called her father. Daddy, she said, forcing calm into her voice, this place is heavy. Pastor Dura was silent for a moment. Are you safe? I think so. For now. Then pray, he said firmly. Pray harder than you've ever prayed. The third night, the drums began. Low, slow, deliberate, boom, boom, boom. They rose from beneath the earth itself, vibrating through the floor, through Nneka's bones. She fell to her knees and prayed aloud, her voice trembling but persistent. I am not afraid. I am not alone. Greater is he that is in me. The drums stopped. Too suddenly, the silence pressed against her ears until it hurt. Then the air grew cold. The door creaked open. Nneka turned. The masquerade stood inside her room. Not a dream, not a vision. It was real. Its cowries clinked softly as it floated closer. The smell, blood, smoke, rot, wrapped around her throat. Fear clawed up her spine, but she forced herself to speak. You will not touch me, she said. In the name of... Pain exploded in her head. The world tilted. Darkness swallowed her whole. When she opened her eyes, the air was damp and foul. Chains rattled as she tried to move. She wasn't alone. Whispers filled the darkness. Another one. Oh, God, help us. Nneka's eyes adjusted slowly. Bars, stone walls, a pit carved beneath the earth. Girls huddled together, eyes hollow, bodies thin. Some clutched swollen bellies, others stared blankly into nothing. Where are we? Nneka whispered. A girl beside her laughed weakly. Hell. Footsteps echoed above. A trap door creaked open. Light spilled down like a blade. Ifeanyi's voice drifted after it, smooth and amused. Welcome, child of faith. Nneka clenched her fists. Above them, the masquerade waited, and Zimbali held its breath. Nneka lifted her head slowly, forcing her eyes to stay open as the trapdoor slammed shut above them. Darkness rushed back in, thicker than before, pressing against her chest until breathing felt like work. Please, a girl sobbed somewhere to her left. Please, I don't want to die. You won't, Nneka said before she could stop herself. The words surprised even her. Several faces turned toward her, eyes reflecting faint torchlight seeping through cracks in the stone. They looked at her the way drowning people looked at floating wood, half desperate, half afraid to hope. You don't know that, another girl snapped bitterly. They all say that at first. Nneka swallowed. What happens here? A long silence followed. Then one girl laughed, sharp and broken. We disappear. That's what happens. They spoke in fragments, voices trembling, interrupting one another as fear spilled out. They come at night. They take the babies. They choose who stays. They choose who never comes back. Nneka's stomach twisted. Babies. A girl with a swollen belly nodded weakly. They use us. Then they take what we give birth to. For rituals, someone whispered. Nneka closed her eyes, fighting the urge to scream. She pressed her palms together instead. God, she whispered, if you brought me here, you didn't bring me to die. Above ground, Pastor Duro jerked awake. His chest heaved as though he'd been running. Sweat soaked his shirt. His room felt suddenly too small, the walls pressing inward. "Lord," he whispered. The vision slammed into him without warning. Stone, darkness, chains. His daughter's face, pale but unbroken, her lips moving in prayer. Beneath her, earth, beneath earth, a door. Pastor Duro fell to his knees. "They've taken her," he breathed. "But you showed me where." By morning he had gathered them, men and women who prayed like warriors. Some wore uniforms, others simple clothes. All carried oil, Bibles, and fire in their eyes. "We are not going to negotiate," Pastor Duro told them. "We are going to confront." Back in the dungeon, days blurred together. Food came once a day. Barely edible scraps dropped through the trapdoor. The girls grew weaker. Some cried constantly. Others stopped speaking entirely. Nneka refused to be silent. Every night she prayed aloud. "At first, I thought she was mad," one girl whispered to another. "But when she prays, I feel lighter." Ifeanyi watched from above, irritation growing with each report. "She should be broken by now," he muttered. The Masquerade stood behind him, unmoving. "She is different," it rasped. "Her spirit resists." Ifeanyi's jaw tightened. Nothing resists forever. The drums began again that night, louder, faster. The dungeon shook as the girls screamed, covering their ears. Nneka stood despite the chains biting into her wrists. "No," she shouted upward. "You don't own us." Silence answered, then laughter, deep, mocking. "Faith doesn't scare me," Ifeanyi's voice echoed. "I've buried faith." He descended the steps slowly, torch in hand. The girls shrank back. He stopped in front of Nneka. "You're wasting strength," he said softly. "Submit. It will hurt less." Nneka met his gaze. Her voice shook, but it did not break. "You're already defeated," she said. "You just don't know it yet." His hand struck her across the face. The sound cracked through the dungeon. Several girls screamed. Ifeanyi stepped back, breathing hard. "We'll see." That same night, Pastor Duro's convoy rolled into Zimbali. Villagers watched from behind doors and windows, fear and hope battling in their eyes. No one tried to stop them. When they reached Ifeanyi's compound, the air changed. The ground trembled. Wind roared out of nowhere, ripping leaves from trees, slamming doors open and shut. Clouds gathered unnaturally fast, swallowing the moon. Ifeanyi stepped outside, smiling. "So," he said calmly, "you've come to pray." Pastor Duro stepped forward, voice steady. "Release the captives." Lightning split the sky. "You have no authority here," Ifeanyi replied. The Masquerade emerged, towering behind him. The prayer warriors began to chant. Oil was poured. Psalms shouted. Faith collided with darkness like thunder. The ground cracked. Ifeanyi screamed incantations, his voice rising above the storm. Then the light came. Not lightning, something purer. It struck him square in the chest. He fell, screaming. Below, the dungeon shook violently. Chains snapped loose. Dust filled the air. Nneka dropped to her knees as the trap door burst open. Light poured in. Real light. She looked up. "Daddy," she whispered, and Zimbali screamed one last time. Pastor Duro did not run. As the storm tore through the compound and the Masquerade shrieked like something wounded, he walked forward, his shoes crunching on broken charms and shattered gourds. The prayer warriors followed, voices rising, steady and fierce. Inside the dungeon, Nneka shielded her eyes as light flooded the pit. The other girls cried out, some laughing, some sobbing uncontrollably as chains fell away like they had never been real. "It's over," Nneka whispered, her voice hoarse. "Hold on. Please, hold on." Hands reached for her. She pulled girls to their feet one by one, her own body trembling now that fear no longer held her upright. Above ground, Ifeanyi writhed on the earth, clutching his eyes. "My sight," he screamed. "I can't see." The masquerade staggered, its raffia peeling away, its mask cracking down the middle. A sound like dry wood snapping echoed as it collapsed into dust. Pastor Duro raised his voice. "Every covenant made with blood," he declared, "is broken." Thunder rolled once more, then stopped. Silence followed, a terrible final silence. Police officers stepped forward, weapons raised, disbelief written across their faces. They moved carefully, as though afraid the darkness might leap back up. "Arrest him," Pastor Duro said calmly. Ifeanyi laughed weakly from the ground. "You think this ends me?" a voice answered from the crowd. "It ends you." Oba Makena pushed his way forward, his royal robe soaked with sweat. His face was pale, his hands shaking. "They promised me protection," he stammered. "They promised power." The villagers stared at him. "You sold us," a woman screamed. "You sold our daughters." The police grabbed the king and dragged him back as villagers surged forward, rage and grief pouring out after years of silence. Below, the rescued girls emerged from the trapdoor, blinking in the open air like people reborn. When the villagers saw them, thin, scarred, alive, the ground seemed to tilt beneath everyone's feet. Cries erupted. Mothers collapsed. Fathers fell to their knees. Names were shouted into the night. Nneka climbed out last. She stood for a moment, swaying, her eyes searching the crowd until they locked onto her father's. He ran to her and held her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I saw you," he whispered fiercely. "God showed me." She broke then, tears soaking his shirt. "I was so scared," she admitted. But he never left. By morning, Zimbali had changed forever. Ifeanyi was blind and unable to walk, carried away on a stretcher, screaming curses that no one feared anymore. Oba Makena was stripped of his title before the sun reached its peak. The villagers burned the compound that afternoon. They didn't chant, they didn't dance. They watched as flames swallowed the walls, the symbols, the place that had devoured their peace. Smoke curled into the sky, carrying something old and poisonous away. For days after, elders performed cleansing rites. Pastor Duro and his team prayed without rest. The river was blessed. The harmony tree was washed with oil and tears. A new king was chosen, not from hunger for power, but from humility. Oba Ayodele, a quiet farmer and distant cousin, stood before the people with bowed head. "If I ever forget that leadership is service," he said, "remove me." Life did not return overnight. Some girls went home, some stayed, forming a circle of healing, leaning on one another. Scars remained, but so did breath and hope. Months later, Nneka stood at the edge of the village, her service complete. Drums played again, this time in joy. "You saved us," a woman said, gripping her hands. Nneka shook her head gently. "No." Faith did. She stepped onto the bus, looking back once more at Zimbali. The village stood quiet, not in fear, but in peace. As the bus pulled away, her phone buzzed. A notification. Someone had posted Amara's final video. The comments were pouring in, and the story of Zimbali would never be forgotten. If this story moved you, if it made your heart race, your chest tighten, your faith stir, don't keep it to yourself. Like this story, comment your thoughts below. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because some stories are told for entertainment, and some are told as warnings. And this one? This one is both.